Question number 4, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister responsible for Whanau Ora.
I apologise, the Right Honourable Member. Now, look, the House has been particularly unruly today. I accept some days are like that, and members have got a bit of a head of steam up over this issue, and I accept that because it's a topical current issue. But the House has to behave in a reasonable manner, and it's not reasonable at the moment. The Right Honourable Winston Peters, question number 4.
Speaker, this question is to the Minister responsible for Whanau Ora. Is the Whānau Integration, Innovation and Engagement Fund open to individuals who do not have New Zealand citizenship or residency? If so, how many non-residents have received grants from the fund since 2010?
The Honourable Tariana Turia.
Mr. Speaker, the Whānau Integration, Innovation and Engagement Fund is not open to individuals or privately owned businesses. However, any New Zealand family or whānau collective can make application to the fund.
Supplementary question.
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Has she received any reports of Whānau Ora providers using Whānau Integration, Innovation and Engagement grants to help overstayers remain in New Zealand? If so, what are the details?
The Honourable Tariana Turia.
Mr. Speaker, my understanding is that we have had one provider in the South Island who, during their work with them on the Whānau Integration Fund, that they discovered that one of the members, there were 18 members of a family included, that one of the members were in fact overstayers, and that they have been dealing with that issue. They have been incredibly transparent.
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Supplementary question. Does that mean she is aware of a case in Canterbury where an overstayer with a history of family violence, child neglect and drug abuse received help from Whānau Ora in an attempt to get his residency application approved?
The Honourable Tariana Turia.
Mr. Speaker, that is not correct. This particular person was, as I said, part of a group of 18 family members, and they have been assisting that person with all of the issues that are confronting him, including the family violence issues, and the issue of whether he gets to stay in New Zealand will depend on the outcomes of that.
The Right Honourable Winston... Well, sorry, I beg your pardon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Kia ora tātou. To the Minister, how can the WE Fund inform or support the way in which government can address monitoring gaps in how taxpayer funds are being spent?
The Honourable Tariana Turia.
Mr. Speaker, the evaluation points out that the WE plans provide an early indication of the goals and the aspirations that whānau are pursuing. The evaluation identifies a rich whānau-centred data source which points out where the gaps are for Māori in mainstream services and other families. The collation, analysis and reporting of the data will enable Whanau Ora to demonstrate leadership in the state sector and being able to inform service delivery responsiveness. Operational improvements continue to be made as a result of this information, including sharing of good practice, revision of policy and procedural guidelines, and a greater understanding of this work draws on departmental capacity.
The Right Honourable Vincent Peters.
So does that mean that this psychobabble is appropriate that a Whānau Ora provider supported this overstayer's attempts to become a permanent resident despite him having a history of violence towards women and children, as well as substance abuse?
The Honourable Tariana Turia.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not prepared to discuss in this House one individual person when we have 33,000 members of families who are participating in Whānau Ora. While this particular person likes to get around and find the issues where things are wrong, the fact
Point of order, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Speaker, this Minister is required to come to this House and answer questions properly put. She pointed out in the primary supplementary question that she was aware of this case in South Canterbury, down in the South Island, and now she's saying she's not prepared to discuss it. She should be, with respect, told that you are a minister. When a person probably puts a legitimate question in this House, her job is to answer it if she has the information.
Order. I think the member makes a fair point that unless the minister is invoking the public interest or and I guess it's related if there are privacy issues relate where it is not in the public interest to breach privacy issues, that's a matter for the minister to determine. But if the minister is not invoking such matters, then the minister should answer the question unless she is invoking those things. The Honourable Tariana Turia.
Mr Speaker, I have already answered that particular question. I have made it very clear that this was a group of 18 family members, that this issue was in fact disclosed by the provider immediately that it was discovered, and that matter is being dealt with in the appropriate way.
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Why should New Zealand taxpayers be supporting an illegal immigrant with a history of family violence and substance abuse to work towards permanent residence when that information is on the material of the Whanau Ora that was dealing with this person?
The Honourable Tariana Turia.
Mr Speaker, I have already told the House that this matter is being dealt with appropriately by the provider concerned. Mr Peters did not disclose this information. We disclosed it to him when he applied for it. We have been very transparent. The provider has been transparent, and the issue is being dealt with. Order.
That's the only problem with that answer. It's not actually responding to the question the member actually asked. He asked why, and admittedly it was seeking the minister's view on something, but it'd be helpful if the view related to the question asked, and that was why, or does the minister consider it acceptable or something for taxpayers' money to be spent on assisting an overstayer? I don't want to get the member's question wrongly, so I invite the Right Honourable Winston Peters to repeat his question.
My supplementary question is, why should New Zealand taxpayers be supporting an illegal immigrant with a history of family violence and substance abuse to work towards permanent residence when that information was available on the material that the Whanau Ora was dealing with?
The Honourable Tariana Turia.
Mr Speaker, that particular information was disclosed once this family had become engaged with the organisation down in the South Island. I want to point out that we don't agree with anybody misappropriating any taxpayers' funds, and in this case I do not believe that this is a misappropriation. That particular issue, that once it has been discovered, is being dealt with appropriately.
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Given that the individual in question was a successful applicant of the Whānau Integration, Innovation and Engagement Fund, what confidence can the public have in Whanau Ora when it is so vulnerable to exploitation by overstayers, gang members and other undesirable characters?
The Honourable Tariana Turia.
Mr Speaker, I think that the member needs to make up his mind whether he is saying Whanau Ora is Māori separatism or whether it's throwing open the door to immigrants.
Speaker.
Point of order, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
With the greatest respect, my question has nothing to do with that at all. I'm asking what confidence the public can have when we know that overstayers, in this case gang members and other undesirable characters, have received funds from Whanau Ora.
Well, order, the member, unlike some of the earlier questions, was simply seeking an opinion here from the minister and injected into his question some statements the minister may disagree with, and I think we need to give the minister a bit of licence in answering that particular question. The Honourable Tariana Turia.
Mr Speaker, to quote Mr Peters, show me the facts and the evidence that an individual, hold on a minute, you can laugh because that's how you deal with these issues, you laugh them off. You show me the evidence that an individual applied for the money. You show me the evidence. You show the evidence.
Order. Now this will cease. That answer is totally out of order because the Speaker is certainly not going to show the Minister any evidence whatsoever. And the minister is senior enough to know that she doesn't refer to members across the House in that way. Question number 5. Point of order, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
I seek leave of the House to table a Whanau Ora assessment and Whanau Ora family plan from Pacific Trust Canterbury, confidential on the document it says, dated 23rd January and 24th February 2012, which state that the individual in question has a suspended immigration status and a history of family violence and drug abuse.
Leave us sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is no objection. Supplementary question, Totoro Flavel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister and to help members of the House, how will we know a difference has been made in people's lives through the We Fund?
The Honourable Tariana Turia.
Mr. Speaker, Professor Samason Jury told Whanau Ora last week that most government programs do not measure outcomes. They measure volumes, they measure the amount of work that's done and the amount of money that is spent. Whanau Ora is about measuring the difference that is made and the outcomes that are achieved.
Question number 5, the Honourable David Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister.